Thank you for joining me on Connections. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield. And I have Scott Owen, our Chief of Fire. Chief of Fire, I would say. Fire Chief, sorry.
That's all right.
I have police in my mind here, but thanks for joining me here on my show, Connections. And we're getting close to Christmas, and that means a lot of Christmas trees in homes. That could be real. What do we have to do to be safe with those?
Yeah, so again, using a lot of common sense with your decorations, with Christmas trees, making sure that they are watered every day, making sure that reservoir is full, using lights that are in good condition, not ones that have been repaired and taped back together or something like that. No candles on the trees like they used to do many years ago. Just really a lot of common sense when it comes to the tree. If you're going to be leaving the house to go somewhere, turn the lights off on the tree just so they don't have a chance. If you have pets and they tend to drink out of that tree bowl, you may have to fill it up a couple of times a day. It just really depends on how thirsty the animals are, and those are probably the big things with the tree. Is watering it. But general decorations around the house, watching the use of extension cords, not overloading electrical outlets and circuits. Make it festive but safe. Yeah,
and you're also telling people not to put these electrical cords under rugs.
Correct.
To hide them, there's no reason to do that. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, if you start to put throw rugs over power cords, extension cords, whatever, they can start to heat up underneath that rug and cause problems.
Yeah, and another thing that people need to be careful, even an artificial tree or anything near their fireplace, correct? Yes. It could, especially a real tree being dry, could ignite easier.
If you get an ember coming from the fireplace for whatever reason, a drying out Christmas tree will go up very fast, and pretty much once that tree starts to go, it's very hard to stop until all the needles are gone.
Right, which will spread through the room, and we've seen scenarios of that.
Right.
You've seen videos, I'm sure, and been in real situations that a room can go up in flames within minutes and travel upstairs, and by then you're not putting it out yourself, you're calling 911.
Exactly.
So let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's lead into the wreath that you guys have, and I think that's something that's been going on for years. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so every year we participate in the Keep the Wreath Green campaign. This is really, from what I'm finding, a national campaign. We've been doing it in partnership with the Wood County Fire Chiefs Association. I think this is our 26th year. So the premise behind the campaign is the wreath starts out with all green bulbs, and we have one white bulb at the top of the wreath, and that allows us to remember the firefighters that were killed and have passed before us. Kind of keeps them in our minds and in our hearts. But the premise behind the wreath is, as there's a structure fire in Wood County, we exchange one green bulb for a red bulb. Our goal is obviously to have as green a wreath as we can come New Year's Day. So this program starts Thanksgiving and it ends New Year's Eve. Last year we had 8 red bulbs on the wreath, and again, this is countywide. This year so far we have 3. There was a fire in Saratoga, there was one in Sherry, and then there was one in the town of Marshfield just south of the city this past week. So while we prefer to see 0, if we can hold off on any more for the holiday season, we don't have to deal with the tragedy. The families involved don't have to deal with it. It's a difficult time of year. And really the wreath is designed to just bring more awareness on fire safety to the residents.
In being wintertime and in holidays, is it more of an increase of fires at this time versus the summer?
Yeah, we start to see a slightly higher amount during this season. There's heating appliances being used, fireplaces, space heaters. There's a lot of decorations. I had mentioned before, overloading the outlet cords and the circuits. You see that. And then even from the commercial side of it, with stores, they have a lot more stock. They're bringing in a lot of things to be sold for the holiday season, so that chance is always there, but typically winters are higher.
All right. Well, if you guys are just tuning into my show, Connections, I'm Tom Mokes. I have Scott Owen, Fire Chief here, and we're kind of talking about what happens over the holidays, being safe, and we're filming this right now at about on December 18th, and be running this throughout the holiday season, so if you're watching this, and later after Christmas still, that it's important to stay safe. Your tree may still be up, and you need to continue watering even though Christmas is over, and I think that's really an important piece. Earlier this morning, I noticed there was a large fire somewhere in the Wausau area, and that was a wood shop, as I'm understanding. So, although that's Marathon County, that's kind of what you're saying is some of these businesses that are maybe doing a lot more work at this time. Right, exactly. Happens.
Yeah, I don't know the cause of that one yet. That'll come out in the next few days, I imagine, but yeah, it's that type of thing. The production has probably increased. There may be holiday decorations inside. Just you don't really know, but the chances are there.
Let's take us through if there was a fire that was happening and it was called in. You're sending out what to that fire if 911 says there's flames?
So we have standard fire responses, and we've broken it down into a couple of different types. So if we're going to a house fire, a typical response would be an ambulance and 2 engines. We would leave our ladder truck at the station, more than likely, and have that come later on if we need it. If we're going someplace commercial or like the downtown, one of the manufacturing, a high-res residential high-rise building, we would grab the same pieces of equipment plus bring the truck with us right away. And again, it's all dependent on daily staffing and how the dispatch comes in.
But you have contact with dispatch then in those trucks that you can talk to them?
Yep.
As well as PD, and are you able to chat with them on a separate line?
Yep. Yeah, we have cross frequencies, so we can go to their frequency. They can come to ours, and then we're always talking with dispatch. If the commander gets on scene and notices that this is something we're going to be here a while, he'll ask dispatch to call in off-duty people to backfill the station. So in the event of another emergency, or if we need more people on scene, we have those resources available for us.
Now, is there a tone that goes out on top of maybe one of your chiefs? Are you calling your individuals? Is there a special tone?
We use a phone app that's called I Am Responding. And so what happens is the person who activates the call in, whether it's dispatch or someone back at the station, these alerts will go out to the phones, and the firefighters can set their own tone, whatever they want. Some like, a single beep. Others like really loud, obnoxious sounds. But it's whatever they want. And then they respond if they can come in or if they can't.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the police department and the fire department. A lot of times you guys are on scene to many things. For instance, last night, on the 17th of December, there was quite of activity over at the UW it became a false alarm, which was good. Is that something that your department has to be a part of?
Yeah, so usually if the police have some type of an active threat, we will have an ambulance staged somewhat close to that incident, but far enough away that we're not involved. We've done some training with the police department on a concept called Rescue Task Force, where if there is some type of a hostile situation and there's an active shooter, If that person is still inside of a structure, we can go in under the protection of law enforcement and begin treatment of victims. Luckily, that didn't happen. From what I can gather from last night's incident, it sounded like they had it pretty well contained. Students were all safe, staff was safe, and everything was going the way that it should have. But there are times when we do get involved with them. Bomb threats periodically. If they get the call, we may or may not go. Sometimes we don't know about it. But any time that they do a search warrant or they're going for a high risk whatever, they'll usually request an ambulance to stage close to that incident just in case something were to happen.
Even like some of these recent bomb threats in school, even the police have to treat it as it would be real.
They treat it as real.
As well as you guys.
Yep.
So you may have an ambulance that could be somewhat close to the vicinity if there was something.
Yeah, we might if they request it. A lot of times we find out about an active bomb threat through social media. We don't, if the police are out on something, we don't always get notified, and that's fine. But we like to know ahead of time, so in case something were to happen, that we're not sending all of our people out different tasks or assignments or whatever when we could really hold them in-house. Right. So there's always things that can be improved upon, and that'll be one of the future discussions with Chief Gramza, and at least notifying us.
Communications, I think, is how, because you guys working right together. A lot of it. If there's a fire, most likely you need police to block off roads.
Yeah, and most times at a fire, Marshfield Police are first on scene. As they're out on the roads, they're patrolling already, and they can start blocking roads for us or whatever. And we do have a good working relationship with them. And I know there's a lot of agencies out there that don't have that working relationship. The police and the fire just don't get along for whatever reason, and we do.
That's good. Let's talk a little bit about that new ambulance. It's four-wheel drive. We have snow. How does the crew say it works now in this snow?
From everything I'm hearing, the crew really does like this ambulance. It is a four-wheel drive. It's a heavier truck, working really good. I'm sure that they have used four-wheel drive a few times already, but it's going very, very well.
Good. And you got a new engine out. What
engine.
Number is that again?
That's number 3.
Number 3, and has it been out? It's been out, but not on a fire yet, right?
Right. Yep. It's been out on responses. Just has not had a working fire yet, and it's going very well. The crews have trained with it. They're comfortable with it. It's a little bit different style than what we were used to. So there's a couple of things that they have to remember when they're getting ready to put it in operation, but for the most part, I think everybody enjoys it. It's nice to have a new piece of equipment that will serve the city well for the next 25 years.
25 years, that's...
Yep. Wow. Between the frontline and reserve, it's about a 25-year lifespan.
Now, the one that was sold recently, was that the yellow engine?
Yes.
Yeah, that was... What year was that?
That was an 85.
Wow.
So 34, 35 years old.
And it was still used, not to, at some point, like as a pumper truck, right, you said?
Yeah, we used it a few years ago. I don't remember if they used it last year at the church or not. But, we had used it at the Central Avenue fire a few years back, and it got used.
All right.
It was just old and
right.
Failing its pump tests, and the maintenance costs on it were starting to outweigh the benefits of keeping it.
All right. Well, you're aware that we film Police and Fire Commission usually, I believe, the second Wednesday of the month, unless something changes.
Right.
Tell me that part. What do you need to prepare for that kind of meeting? I'm just not. We touch base. You and Chief Grams will talk a lot, and maybe some of our viewers have watched that. What is that? What's the need of having that kind of a meeting, and what do you do there?
So I think of the commission as similar to the council. The commission, they are our bosses. We report to them. They're our supervisors. We report our monthly activities. So for us, like monthly activities it comes down to reviewing everything that we did the previous month, putting it into a document, any type of thank you cards we get, any type of donations, we make copies of all of that, give it to them. If we have a new policy, if we have a new program we want to do, we start with the PFC and get their permission and approvals, and really any significant changes to the operation of the department, we touch base with them and get their blessing to do so. And when it comes to the financials, they approve all of our bills before they're sent up to finance for payment. So it's just really keeping them in the loop on things that we're doing or things that we want to do to improve the department.
Now, if someone was to want to be on the commission, there's only certain seats that are available. I think, what is there, 3 or 4? How does that work? I guess there's nothing open right now at this point. Is that
right.
Is that appointed by the council?
So yeah, we have 5 commissioners. Right now, Andy Keogh is the president and Jennifer Meese is the vice president. Gordy Earl is the secretary, and then Randy Gershman and Mike Myers are board members, commissioners. So everybody has a 5-year term. This coming April, Andy's term is up, and those terms are appointed with final approval by the council, but appointed by the mayor.
Okay, so you won't see them on a ballot.
Nope.
Totally different idea. So again, do they need to apply though first? I think they do.
Yeah, I think that they submit a letter of interest and submit that to the mayor, and the mayor reviews them and chooses who they think is going to be best representative for that commission, and they kind of go from there.
Okay, so that's how that works. I was just kind of curious.
Yep.
We get to film that every month and find out what items that you guys have maybe want to purchase, or I guess I was going to ask Chief Grams, but have you seen his drone out? Is it out
I
yet?
have not.
Okay.
I heard that he has it or it's on order, but I have not seen it yet.
I definitely see that there's some collaboration between you and that with that drone maybe down the road.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a big fire, you're going to want to see certain areas above that you may not see from the ladder.
Right. Yeah, and talking with Chief Grams, if we need it, we can certainly call him. Wood County Sheriffs have one as well. He indicated that if we need it, we just call, and I could definitely see a use on the fire service for it, and many fire departments across the country have them for day-to-day operations.
All right. Well, I'll just end here with, I know you guys have done some work with some of the other volunteer departments around. I know, is that more for rescue or for fire, or sometimes can be both? I think I saw something recently that you guys helped with some, I think a structure, maybe not a structure fire, but I read it somewhere.
Yeah, so we have ambulance contracts with 13 townships and villages. So we provide primary ambulance service along with their emergency medical responders, their first responders. We have mutual aid agreements with all of our surrounding townships for fire. So if they need help, they can call and we can send resources to help them, and vice versa. If we get a big fire here and we need help, we can call them and they will come in. At the recent fire in the town of Marshfield, the Hewitt chief, as part of their box alarm or their call outs, they have us on there for an ambulance. So we responded along with the rest of their initial response to the box alarm for that house fire on Mill Creek Drive. We're there for a couple of reasons. We're there in case there's anybody in the house that gets hurt. We're there for the firefighters in case they get hurt, and we're there to assist with maybe like a rehab, getting the firefighters cooled and fluids and checking them out, making sure that they're okay and that type of stuff.
It'd be hard though, I guess, your guys are both firefighters and paramedics, and they may be on scene. You kind of want to help, but you don't want to get in someone's way and let them do their job. Although, and not saying nobody's trained either way. It's just, how do you? I think it would be hard.
It is hard.
Okay.
It's hard. The ambulance crew, when they got back, we talked to them and they said, well, we did help them do this because they needed help, and that's fine.
Yeah.
They want to get in. They want to do what they're trained. They want to, get into the middle of it, and they just have to take a step back and think, why am I here? We did that many, many years ago. Prince had an incident over the 4th of July weekend, and we went over there as a hazmat team just because they had so much stuff. Well, most of us that went ended up going in on suppression, kind of leaving hazmat. And the chief at the time didn't like that, wasn't real impressed with us, but it's what we're trained to do. We're trained to go in, and it's hard to sit on the sidelines and watch sometimes.
Yeah, and that's what I would have a real hard time. And how do you handle that when this is a major structure fire?
Right.
There might be some training that you guys have, and maybe the smaller departments just didn't have. You kind of want to say something, but you got to be a little bit careful. But you are there for generally those like the Mill Creek fire for helping a firefighter or that maybe of too much smoke, inhalation, that kind of stuff. So
we're
big important part.
It
as
is.
Well.
It is. And when we start getting out into the townships outside of the city, we rely heavily on those departments for their expertise. We think of agriculture accidents. So a farm accident, someone is down in a silo. We don't have that type of training. We don't have that type of equipment. They do. They're very good at doing those rescues from silos because they practice and they have the equipment that's needed. We don't carry it because we don't have that in the city. Our primary fire response is inside of the city.
Yeah, and they're also used to not having fire hydrants either, I bet.
And fire hydrants, out in the rural, that was a big portion of that Mill Creek. I read somewhere that the closest pond, they call them fill sites, so the closest fill site for them was 8 miles.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if that was 4 miles there, 4 miles back, or 8 miles one way. That I'm not sure, but that's a delay. That's a huge delay. The tender comes back, dumps the water, heads out, another one comes in, dumps theirs. Well, eventually it's going to get to the point where you can't pump because everything is being delayed, but they're very good at doing water shuttle operations. They set it up. They have systems in place. They know how to do it. They do it the most efficient that they can, and glad that they're there because we're not that good. We rely on hydrants. That's what we have in the city.
Right, because they have to put in like a pond, right, up real quickly. It's like a big
swimming pool. Yep.
And your pumper truck would come and fill, but they have to go to a nearby hydrant or.
So the tenders would go to a pond or to a hydrant, fill up that truck, drive it back to the scene where that dump tank is, dump it all into that, and then head out and refill. It's quite the operation when you start talking about rural water supply.
But your trucks here do carry some water without hooking to a hydrant, right?
Yes.
So they could instantly use that water before hooking up to a hydrant like a car fire, right?
Yes. Yeah, we typically don't hook to a hydrant for a car fire unless it's in a garage or, right next to a house or something. most times we can handle it with the onboard water.
Okay. So and some of those trucks are not just water too, right? Don't some of them have some kind of foam with them?
Yep, we have foam
Okay.
on majority of ours, so we can switch between.
Oh, it carries in 2 different tanks,
Yep.
is what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen that with maybe a crash or something that
Right.
you may need to wash the road or just a fire in a car too.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that gives us some good information about what you guys do and responding when it's in the rural areas. Thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate it. Well, we're out of time, Scott. Thanks again for joining me. I want to thank you guys for joining me on my Connections show that I do every couple of weeks. And Scott was my guest this time, and we'll have him back in a month or so. Maybe we'll get over to the station come in January or February. We'll see what happens. But I wish you guys a happy New Year and a great Christmas. Thanks for watching.